What up, what up? Welcome back, welcome back. I want to start off today with a reading from our boy Leo Tolstoy from Russia. And don't worry, it's not going to be a 1,000-page rendering of War and Peace. Tolstoy, in fact, did write several short stories. And it's a darn shame that he never won a Nobel Prize. So the story for today, from 1886, is titled, How Much Land Does a Man Need? There once was a peasant named Pahom who worked super hard and honestly for his family, but he had no land of his own, and he was super poor. He spent all day tilling Mother Earth, and he always wondered and dreamed if he could actually acquire more land. One day, from a traveler, he learned about a land deep in Russia belonging to the tribe of the Bashkirs, a Turkish tribe that sold the land for super cheap. In fact, their deal was as much land as you can cover in a day, from sunrise until sunset, at the cost of 1,000 rubles you could claim. The peasant was extremely excited. I mean, who wouldn't be? You run around and get to claim as much land as you want. You could have thousands of acres if you really stretched it. So Pahom packed up his few belongings, left his wife and family, and went to the land of the Bashkirs to acquire as much land as he could. And sure enough, when he met the tribe, they greeted him warmly, and their deal was 100% valid. They're like, Pahom, look dude, as much land as you cover in a day, we'll give it to you for this price of 1,000 rubles. Pahom agreed, and he went to sleep, except he couldn't, because he was way too excited, thinking about all the land, this fertile land that could be his. The next morning, at sunrise, he met with the tribe, got ready to go, double-checked the rules, and set off, running with the spade to mark the land that would be his. And he ran, and he saw a beautiful hill. He was like, I want this. So he dug up a little mound, which signaled to the tribe that this was his land, and kept moving. Then he got a little thirsty, and luckily he saw a river, and he's like, you know what? What would be nice is to have this river as part of my land. So he dug a little bit there as well. And he kept going on and on and on, looking at places for pasture for cattle and areas to grow certain crops and nice features in the land that his wife would find pleasing. Pahom wanted it all, and he was going to get it. But then he realized something when he saw a shadow. The sun was setting, and he looked back, and he could barely see dots where the Bashkir tribe remained. Now remember, their deal was from sunrise until sunset. That's how much land you can have if you come back to the starting point before the sun sets. Pahom the peasant was way too far, so he starts sprinting back, trying to beat the sunset. And he's like, I'm not going to make it. All this running around and the 1,000 rubles, I'll be broke. I've lost everything. So he pushes himself as hard as possible and sprints and keeps going and overexerts himself. But he has to make it. He has to make it. And the Bashkir tribe, they're cheering him on. They've never seen a man cover this much land, ever. And he runs and runs and runs and finally gets to the hill just at the moment of sunset. The Bashkir tribe is amazed. They've never seen any man run this far and this fast. And they turn him over, since he's collapsed, to congratulate him. But here's the thing. Pahom the peasant had died from overexertion. So how much land does a man really need? 6 feet from head to toe to bury him. Now, it is currently April 2025, the first couple months of the Donald Trump presidency, part 2. The U.S. economy is definitely facing a crossroads here. Inflation, housing market, tariff wars, consumer price index highs, recession warnings and risks. It seems like every time you turn on the media, that's all that everyone's talking about. But it's true. And I wonder how people are making it nowadays. Like, everything is so darn expensive. The American dream, whatever it was back in the day, is in some ways fading. Can you afford education? Can you afford a place to live? Can you afford to eat? Yet on the flip side, the messaging that we get from media and society is that we don't have enough and we should spend more, especially on luxury items. Luxury items have not become luxury, they're essentials. You need a new car, you need a new phone, you need to keep up with trends, you need new clothes. And of course, there's a difference between minimalism and frugalism, being cheap whereas being thoughtful. But at a certain point, it's what do you actually need? And make no mistake, money absolutely matters. In fact, I've been spending time with a lot of founders recently who've had liquidation events. So either their company was acquired or they had an IPO. Very neat stuff where they've gotten life-changing money. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars where they're functionally retired. They don't need to do anything. But then the questions change once you've acquired that amount of money. It's more about life. And it's also very interesting to see once you've acquired that kind of money, some of the conversations are just eye-opening in terms of how much money do you actually need to live a good life? What actually matters to you? What are the things that you want to buy? And perhaps most critically, can you have a rich life with less? Absolutely. Minimalism doesn't need to start or end with finances. It's just a principle in terms of simplifying communication, your living, and your structures to free you. Because if we really look at what matters, it's time and freedom, in my opinion. And so in that case, you will never be richer than you are now. And I'm always chasing freedom, which to me is the ability to decide what you want to do with your time. The ability to do what you want, when you want, where you want, with who you want. And I'll be straight up, my focus on life experiences rather than material goods has been the single biggest contributor to my financial stability and happiness. And don't get me wrong, when it's time to handle business, I take care of business, whether it's my family, my friends, myself. There's no shortcomings here in terms of spending money on what matters to me. Like I will splurge on whatever health tests I need to do, the best gyms, I guess the best protein powders, but that's what matters to me, right? I have a huge bucket list of things that I've mostly done across the world. And I'll be candid again, it didn't take as much money as I thought it would. Doing the thing, having memories, being rich with memories was a significant goal of mine, and it's going to continue to be a goal of mine. Back in the day, there was this wonderful blog called Zen Habits, and it talked a lot about mindfulness. One of their challenges was reducing the amount of possessions you own to 100. That's pretty difficult when you actually count down things. And you can, adjust it to maybe you don't count each sock as an individual item. You can just say I have 10 pairs of socks and I'm going to count that as one item. But the exercise was super helpful to me. And I actually did it myself. So I have 147 possessions. The top category there is clothing, which is about 35%. Fitness is the next one, which is 17%, and that includes things like weightlifting belts, boxing gloves, ab rollers. Then it's accessories at 15%, which include things like watches. I put suits in as a separate category because I have so many suits. That's about 13%. Books are next at 8%, roughly. Shoes are at 7%. And then I have essentials. These include things such as water bottles and toothbrushes. Now I realize I'm more on the extreme side. I can fit all of my possessions into a suitcase, a carry-on bag, and a backpack. And I like that because I am a digital nomad. I'm traveling all the time. I don't like stuff. I actually get anxiety when I have too much stuff. And I will willingly and happily discard stuff or give things as gifts to people. I'm not attached to any of these things. In fact, the only thing, if there was a fire in my place that would be sad to lose, is my childhood book that has all of my drawings and pictures and stories. Everything else, I could care less if I lost it. It wasn't always like this. I worked hard to get to a spot in which I could have the nice suits and the cool shoes. But even earlier this year, I was literally Googling what needs to be in a bachelor pad to find out things to buy, and all I did was buy 3 more books because I don't care. I'm not attached to those things. I find a lot of those things ridiculous because they're related to things that really truly don't matter, such as status or the perception of status. That being said, I can appreciate good stuff, right? Like a well-tailored suit or a Michelin star meal somewhere, of course. Like there's quality to things, but I think that should be the defining factor. It's, do you really want this outside of what anyone else thinks? And do you get a benefit from it? Like for me, I eat the same thing every day, so it doesn't really matter whether or not I eat out. I don't really need any clothes besides suits when I'm working, and then tank tops when I'm working out. Those are like the two major functions of my day. And other than that, I'm out and about traveling, so I don't bring too much stuff in my house. I've never owned a car. I don't have a bed. Like these things seem extreme, but it works for me. And I think it really lends itself to how you think about life, perception, and status. I think Warren Buffett has a great quote. It says, would you rather be the world's greatest lover, but have everyone think you're the world's worst? Or would you rather be the world's worst lover, but have everyone think you're the world's greatest lover? And this again brings into question, why do you need these things? Who are you doing it for? If it's for you and you really derive passion from it, great. You know, what was interesting when I was backpacking Southeast Asia was I saw all these luxury items for sale in all the night markets. CC, LV, Nike, all this stuff. And I'm like, good gosh, these things are being made in sweatshops over here. And these are quote unquote the defunct ones that are being sold at a huge discount to consumers. And good on them, they got to make the money. But again, all this demand is just artificially created. Like we are assigning value to these things. And sometimes they are really, really cool if we're into that. If you're into watches, I do like watches, for example, and no judgment. But it could be an interesting exercise to count how many things you have, and out of those things, which things that you really want. When I was growing up, it was, at least in our communities, common to upcycle, hand-me-downs from different people, donate to charities. It was accepted that some people had cars that they were driving for like 20 years. I don't see that anymore. And there's a lot of external pressure, I think, from people to look and do certain things. Social media has definitely contributed to this, right? I mean, I'm guilty of it. I only post like really cool stuff on my social media. And at the end of the day, it is a flex, right? I can travel, I'm eating here, I'm doing this. But if we apply just the simple 80-20 principle, right? The Pareto principle, 80% of your daily outfits are probably only from 20% of the total clothes you own. So there's a lot of stuff that's not getting usage. And of course, some things you might need once in a blue moon, right? It's good to have a tux because every now and then you'll have a wedding and you got to use it. You got to have a good tux. Cool. But the thing about minimalism is that it gives you leverage. When you're not overly motivated by compensation, by a certain number, or titles, or career in a linear fashion, not saying that you shouldn't think about these things, but in a linear fashion where you're like, okay, I need 10K more, and I can only do it through this way, you become free and well-positioned to make exponential leaps. When you really think about what matters to you, whether it's freedom, health, happiness, or purpose, because money for a lot of people, the reason people are searching for FU money or financial independence, retire early, right, is, in my opinion, to pursue these other things that life's about, like health and happiness and purpose. So why not do those things right now in conjunction with the financial side of things? It allows you to focus on your own voice rather than others. You don't need to be greedy for validation anymore. You can do things today, I think, without the money that you think it will take. It takes careful planning, absolutely. It takes budgeting. I don't think you need to be cheap or overly frugal, but just being mindful about things can help free up your mind and your capabilities. And again, to be very clear, this is not an anti-capitalistic message. No. It's about being more strategic about where you are deploying your resources. Yes, it is expensive to live today in areas like America and Singapore. Absolutely, without a doubt. But perhaps the principle of minimalism can help guide you into making smarter choices that pay off for you in the long run, right? Being more aggressive with saving and investing, being more thoughtful about purchases, thinking about what actually gives you value and benefit in your life. What 10x's, what 2x's, what really helps you with the things that matter to you. And again, that's totally within your wheelhouse. For me, for example, like health and happiness is pretty high on my priorities. So once I found out that end goal, it's just a matter of figuring out which things really make my health and happiness great. And of course, there's never going to be a debate there in terms of spending resourcing, money, or time on that, because that's a goal, a life principle that makes sense for me. Minimalism for me allows me to focus on quality over quantity, right? And it's not just about things. It can be about relationships, experiences, like a close circle of good friends, experiences that truly matter, where you're really focused. It's about intentional living, making choices that align with our values. Like every choice that I make in a day, I try to make sure that it's aligned with where I'm going, with my purpose. And having few things to focus on makes it much more easier for me to assess whether or not a thing that I'm doing with my time is worth it overall. I love reducing clutter, and this can mean in the digital sense as well. Just having less apps, less tabs, for me at least, increases focus and productivity. And good gosh, do I feel free when I'm letting go of a lot of these things, whether it's possessions or obligations that no longer serve me. It simplifies a lot. And that's the benefit of minimalism to me. Now, when I'm talking to a lot of these founders, it's so interesting because they spent close to a decade working from wake till night, and now they have money, which is a tool for freedom. And yes, some of them are backpacking, some of them are traveling, some of them are settling down with a partner, but almost every single one of them is curious about what's next. And it's not retirement. And again, these folks are in their late 20s or early 30s. No. It's about what's next. Where can they put this intentionality and purpose to really take things to the next level? They all want to work on something. And I think that's great about the human experience is you see when people retire and get out of work and lose purpose, it typically leads to high levels of isolation and depression. So humans need purpose, and money is a tool to give you the freedom to find out what your purpose is. So I'm all for that. If you can, make enough money, get to FIRE, and do what you need to do. But tomorrow is never guaranteed, so perhaps the message is do what you need to do today and be intentional about where you're putting your resources. I'd like to close with another story. So this is a story of the Mexican fisherman, which some of you might have encountered in the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. So there was an American investment banker in a small coastal Mexican village where he saw a small boat with just one fisherman. And the fisherman had caught several large fin tuna. The American was impressed. He asked him, "Hey, how long did it take to catch them?" The Mexican replied, "Just a little bit." The American then asked, "Why didn't you go out and catch more fish?" The Mexican was like, "Dude, this is enough to support my family's immediate needs." So the American banker asked, "But then what do you do with the rest of your time if you're only spending a little bit of time fishing?" The Mexican fisherman said, "I sleep in, I play with my kids, I hang out with my wife, and I go to the village, hang out with my buddies, and drink a couple beers." The American banker was perplexed. And he said, "Listen, man, I have an MBA. This is what you should do. You should spend more time fishing and keep all the excess, right? Right now you're only doing a little bit. Go fish and get way more fish. With that money, you can buy a bigger boat. But the fisherman cut him off and said, and then what? And the banker said, well, then you could buy several boats with all the proceeds from that. And the fisherman was like, and then what? And the banker said, then you would have a whole fleet. And instead of selling your catch, you could sell directly to the processor and eventually open up your own factory. You would control the product, processing, distribution. You would need to leave this small village, come to New York City where I'm at, and you'll run a global enterprise. And the fisherman paused for a second. He's like, wow, that's a lot. If I spent a little bit of extra time, I could catch more fish, sell it, make more money, and build this big enterprise. How long will this take? The American replied confidently, probably 20 years. But man, it would be life-changing money. The fisherman replied. And he asked again, and then what? And the American banker laughed and said, you see, that's the best part. You see, when the time is right, you would announce an IPO and sell your stock to the public and become very, very rich. You would make millions. The fisherman couldn't comprehend this number. He said, millions? And he asked one more time, and then what? To which the American banker said, then you would retire and move back to this small coastal village where you would sleep in, play with your kids, hang out with your wife, and go to the village in the evening and meet up with your buddies and drink beer. So we're all chasing freedom, we're all chasing money. But at the end of the day, it's about what matters to you. If you are not living a dream life, the question becomes, why not? Is it a number that's holding you back? Is it something else? Is it society? Is it the things that you think you need? What is it? Cool. Thank you so much for listening. Nothing to share this week other than I did do a TEDx talk, which will be on the TEDx YouTube channel soon, so keep an eye for that. But yeah, try to count your possessions, see what you got, see what you need, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.